and welcome to the Hardison and Cochran podcast. In today's episode, North Carolina Workers' Compensation Board-Certified Specialist Attorney Ben Cochran discusses two common pathways to settlement for North Carolina workers' comp claims. Now, here's Ben Cochran.
In North Carolina, most workers' compensation claims resolve through two very common methods. The first one is based upon the permanent partial disability rating through the use of a Form 26A. The Form 26A is a form that's used by the Industrial Commission to award someone compensation for their injuries based upon the permanent partial disability rating. So let's say you're hurt at work, you injure your shoulder, you require surgery, workers' comp has paid all of your benefits up until your date of maximum medical improvement. And at that point in time, the doctor assigns a 10% permanent partial disability rating. And let's also say that you're back to work. You're making the same wages or even greater wages. Maybe you got a raise throughout the period of time. And so now you've been presented with this 10% permanent partial disability rating. Well, the law allows you to get a second opinion on that rating if you'd like to maybe determine whether or not you can obtain a higher rating, at which point in time they average the ratings together and they award your compensation on a Form 26A based upon the permanent partial disability rating. I would say in that situation, if you're able to move through workers' compensation and you haven't had any resistance from the insurance company, then you can resolve your claim that way. You didn't have to hire an attorney, and therefore all of those proceeds would go to you based upon the Form 26A. Now, what that also means is that if you need additional medical treatment within the next 2 years of the last payment or check from workers' comp, then you can contact your adjuster and you can ask to go back to the doctor. It also means that if for some reason, when you go back to the doctor says, I think you need to come back out of work, they will have to restart your check as long as it's within 2 years from the last date of compensation pay. That is one way that your claim can resolve in workers' compensation. And that's kind of what I call the perfect workers' comp claim. The second way that claims resolve in workers' compensation is based upon a compromised settlement agreement. And that's when, more likely than not, that an individual has suffered an injury, benefits have been paid, they have gotten to what's called maximum medical improvement, and unfortunately, due to permanent restrictions, they're unable to return back to their previous wage and not able to go back to their previous employer. So at that point in time, the insurance company, they can either try and find the injured employee another job at another employer, making the same amount of wages or even less wages, or they can settle with the claimant through a compromised settlement agreement. Through that process, there will be a negotiation, and that negotiation is between two parties that are in conflict. The insurance company wants to pay as little as they have to, and the injured party wants as much compensation as they can because they have suffered what we call a wage earning reduction, which means they can't earn the wages that they were due to their injury. And so there is a direct conflict, which more likely than not means that there would be some type of negotiation. And that negotiation is based upon numerous factors, which is why I encourage folks that once they get to that conflict and negotiation is going to happen, that's when you need to reach out to someone and say, how do I do this? What's involved? Can you help me with this? If you've come to that conflict, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about it and tell you the best advice that we have.
We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hardison and Cochran Attorneys at Law podcast. If you would like a free consultation about you or a loved one's legal situation, please go to lawyernc.com. For a full list of episodes, please visit lawyernc.com/podcast.
Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and Hardison and Cochran. Hardison and Cochran does not accept new clients until obtaining a signed agreement. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be intended or taken as legal advice. If you have a legal matter, contact a licensed attorney in your state about your specific set of circumstances.